You're listening to the Write Project podcast and radio program, a show about writing and modern Newfoundland author culture. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew. We are here today with a pillar of the genre writing community in Atlantic Canada. We have Peter Foote on the line. For anyone who doesn't know, Peter Foote is the founder of the Genre Writers of Atlantic Canada group, which is a private Facebook group that's open only to genre writers in Atlantic Canada. It's currently 260 members strong and gains members all the time. The group is devoted to helping and sharing information that will benefit other writers. There's a broad range of people that are in the Genre Writers of Atlantic Canada group. There's multiple published authors, award-winning authors that work for larger publishing companies, all the way down to self-published authors and young authors who haven't even been published yet, for which it's just inspirational and they're still working on their craft. Hello, Peter. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. And yourself, Matt?
I am doing great. I am very happy to have you on finally, sir.
I'm glad to talk to you in person as well.
Yes, we haven't talked in person since probably HellCon. We talk a lot over the chatty chat. As I was saying, you started the Genre Writers of Atlantic Canada, which people can follow the exploits of on Facebook and Twitter by, if they want to, with the hashtag GWOAC. That's when we want to self-promote, but also kind of share it out to the world. We use that hashtag. Can you tell me a little bit about the Genre Writers of Atlantic Canada group, how you got the idea to start it, where it came from, all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. I guess looking back, it would have been HellCon 2016, and for those that don't know, HellCon is a regional sci-fi and fantasy convention held in Halifax, and would have been in October of 2016. I took in a bunch of writing panels with one of their guests that they had that year, and I was really inspired to sit in a room with a whole bunch of amateur authors, or amateur, published, every skill and ability, sitting there as a group, working together at a workshop. And we had that ability to connect and interact with each other and support and chat, basically. And then when I came home, I went back to work on my own projects at that time, and I felt myself really lessened by the fact that I didn't have somebody that I could just commiserate with or chat. So I hummed and hawed. And so in December of 2016, I decided, I chatted with some friends, you being one of them, yep, and thought about creating this group. And so I pressed the whole create a group page on Facebook, and we had our second anniversary last month. We turned 2 in December of 2018.
Well, if we're entering the terrible 2s, we're going to start having problems soon in that place. Like, our group is going to start throwing, stuff and saying bad words.
That's why I have the big band hammer.
Yes.
So,
yeah, exactly.
No, I wanted to create a place where authors of any skill and ability, they didn't have to be published or even submit yet, didn't matter their age, their social background, or anything, had a chance to come together, network, support, interact with each other, ask those silly questions in which, well, you might think it's silly to you, but somebody else is probably curious about it as well. So I wanted that safe space for writers to interact together, and I think we've created a strong, friendly community, and I've made connections with people that I would never have met otherwise. Yeah. And I like to think that there has been some others that have, whether it's through actual creating of their art, their stories, have made connections themselves that they may never have made otherwise. And not to toot myself.
Well, it's Thursday, so you can toot if you want.
Yes, and since you brought that up, we have a thing in our group. It's called Trumpeting Thursdays, in which that's the day of the week in which any member can promote themselves as much as they want in any form or fashion. It could be a personal goal, a sale, or even a submission, or they hit their word count for the day. It didn't have to be anything special. There's so many groups out there that are plug and dump. Somebody will pump their book and then not interact, and I really didn't want our group to be that way.
I think that was integral to why it's kind of worked a whole of it as well as it has, because it's not so much that here's this day when we all do it. It's more that all the other 6 days you're discouraged from doing it. So it's more informative, and we bend the rules from time to time with what it is, like with your permission and stuff like that. But it's more informative and asking questions and getting answers and discussions, and someone might put in an article that we discuss or something like that. But it's not a buy-sell group except on Thursdays, and even then.
Yeah. Even then, it's more supporting each other. I'll see that a friend has a sale, so I may share that on my Facebook feed, and somebody that I may know might be interested. So, no, I really wanted a group where we could come together and support and network with each other, and thereby, in my opinion, we're stronger together. Writers, more often than not, we're either sitting in a coffee shop with their headphones on, or we're bent over the kitchen table at night plugging away. We're very introverted and don't have a whole lot of interaction when it comes to writing. And I really wanted a spot where bring our head up every once in a while, log in, chat, interact, and learn and interact with other authors. Yeah.
As a writer, it's been a great resource. As a publisher, it's been an amazing one, too. I attribute some of it, I'm not going to give you all the credit, but I attribute a lot of our success with the From the Rock books to the also Rise. I think, so for the first modern From the Rock book, Sci-Fi From the Rock, would have been out first before you started the group, based on your 2-year timeline. Yeah. But we got a bunch of submissions from that, but I think that the group bringing together people from all over Atlantic Canada has really helped get the word out. So it helps sales because that's natural promotion, but it also helps just the talent pool that the stories come in from. Like, we got way more submissions this year for Dystopia than we did for any other one before. And I think as much as we do a lot of different things to help with that, the Genre Writers group is a big help with stuff like that. It's a great way to reach local authors that might be looking for work or looking to get a quick short story credit or something like that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Dystopia From the Rock, January 18th, your birthday. Happy birthday, good sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were announced on your birthday as being a part of Dystopia From the Rock, which gives you you're not the only one, but it's a rare distinction of being an author that's been featured in every From the Rock collection so far. Can you tell us a bit about the story that you wrote for Dystopia From the Rock?
Absolutely. I had 2 submissions, and I was quite hesitant about my first one. So 2 days before the deadline, I said, oh man, I really got to come up with something here. I'm feeling a little shaky on my first submission. So I banged out a little piece, I think it was under 1,000 words, that I called Final Edict. And it's a bit of an homage to Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit
451.
451, thank you. I hadn't read the book in a while, but I see it on my bookshelf every once in a while, and I was really struggling to come up with something that was dystopian, but since it's not a genre I generally write in, so I was looking at the classics, and I came back to that, and that kind of inspired me. And it's a little tale about, well, I guess I'll let the readers find out.
Yeah. It very much reminded me of Fahrenheit 451, and I liked it because of that. I actually read Fahrenheit 451 a few years ago when I was reading my way through all of the sci-fi classics. Because I moonlight as a publisher as well as a writer, I try to familiarize myself with all the genres I'm going to be publishing. So I went and I read through, like, the top 100 rated science fiction novels of all time, and then the top 100 fantasy, and top 100 western, and top 100 everything, just so I would know the basics. And I don't mean just the classic ones, it was user rated, so some of them were very new. Okay. But I read Fahrenheit 451 during the sci-fi run-through, and yours compares very favorably. I mean, it's obviously much shorter, but I enjoyed it. I find that it's an idea with yours that can be expressed in few words, which is great. There's nothing that kind of irks me more than when, in the submissions file, when there's an author who could have gotten their idea out in 1,000 words, but decided to write a novel instead. And it's like, oh no, this idea can't sustain that long.
I think we've all been guilty of that at one point or another, and you just hope those are the ones that you don't submit to a publisher.
Yeah, we all do. I tend to think of short stories like memes. Like, the word meme actually was coined by Richard Dawkins. The word meme is supposed to sound a little bit like gene, whereas a gene is the smallest part of DNA. A meme is supposed to be the smallest part of an idea. So it's an idea distilled to its smallest form. But I think that you can make a short story out of a meme, let's say, but that a novel should have multiple memes and basically be a DNA stream.
That's an excellent way to put that. I hadn't thought of it that way, but no.
I will sometimes when I'm figuring out if I've got enough for a novel, I will actually sit and draw a little, those DNA strand models.
Yes.
I'll draw a little one of those, and in each bubble, I'll put part of the idea. And if I don't feel like I've had enough, if it doesn't look like I have a DNA strand by the time I put in all the things I want in the novel, then I'm like, oh, I still need to come up with some stuff. This one isn't ready yet.
It's a mutant then.
Yeah. Yes. It would be a mutant then. Exactly. Horrible. I wouldn't want to write about mutants. I don't do that already. What are you talking about?
No. It'd be new territory for you.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. People with powers? I don't even know how I'd write that. What are you working on in the future, my good sir? What are you looking at right now?
Well, I set myself a goal in January to grow up a little bit as a writer. And so I dug out my 2017 NaNoWriMo novel and that honkin' piece of wet mess, and I'm going to try and actually turn it into a proper first draft of a novel by, I think I gave myself October 31st as a deadline. That way. So
that way you can participate in the next NaNoWriMo.
Right.
Yeah.
And writing a proper novel is all new territory for me. As you know, I'm a short story writer. My life gets divided among various different directions, so I don't generally have a whole lot of time to dedicate to a novel. But an idea popped in my head for NaNoWriMo in 2017, and it really just stuck with me, and the novel came out more or less complete. The peaks are there. There's many valleys, but the peaks are there.
Nice.
And the ideas kind of stayed with me. And in 2018, I actually wrote what I'm calling book 2 of what I plan to be a trilogy. Now, whether or not it ever becomes more than a folder in my desk, that's another matter. But I want to actually see if I can bang out a proper novel.
Yeah. Sounds great. Is it a genre? Is it fantasy, sci-fi?
Yes. No, it's sci-fi. The first novel is Earth-based sci-fi. There's an alien menace. There are good aliens that have been living in the oceans for thousands of years, and humanity has never actually realized it. It features a broken family trying to reestablish itself, and a man with no memory. So,
wow.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I like that answer. Okay, that sounds wonderful. I look forward to seeing that on store shelves sometime, perhaps, or in the submissions folder or somewhere. Sounds good. What's been your take, if you don't mind, as someone who's been a part of the From the Rock books from the beginning? Not to be too self-promoty on my radio show here, but we've got a new one coming out soon. I know you only know what one of the stories is, or at least what it reads like from that. But what do you think about the From the Rock books? How has it been being a part of them? What do you think of them as a reader? That kind of thing.
Well, actually, I've been loving them because as I am a short story writer, I'm also a short story reader. I love short story anthologies and collections. So being able to pick up a book and read a story on your break or when you get home before you have to make supper is great. And these anthologies that Engine has been putting out have progressively been getting better. The focus has become tighter for what theme they have, as well as the submissions and the writing and what has been put out by some of the authors has quite astounded me how many talented people there are within our region. And I'm glad that they've had a way to put voice to their stories and have a venue to have them published. It's I've been really as you said, I've been in all 4 of them thus far.
Yeah.
And but I really think they are getting stronger as they are each published. The cover art's amazing, and it's getting better every year.
Well, we think so. You'll know by February 2nd. This episode won't come out till February 4th, so you might have changed your mind by then.
I know, and I'm really upset that you won't give me a sneak peek either.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, well, we will tell you what. I won't reveal it online, but we can get your reaction to it right now.
Ooh, very attractive.
Yeah.
The viewers are going to like this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah. Viewers will have seen that 2 days ago if they're on the Engine Books Facebook page, which, why wouldn't you be? What are you doing?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Don't like it now.
Exactly. All right. That is great. So, Peter, what is next for you? You said you were working on your novel. What other? Do you have any other projects on the go? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm going to continue on with probably the Injun Kit Sora flash fiction contest. They're a great way to decompress and write. Spend a couple hours at a project and.
Can I say, I honestly don't know how you guys write that. So for those who haven't heard on the show before, Allie was talking about it last week briefly. There's a flash fiction contest where it's inspired by a photo by Kit Sora, and you write 250 words, hopefully based on the photo or inspired by the photo or what have you. Sometimes people do poetry, some people do short fiction. I don't know how you guys do it, because I physically can't write something coherent that's that short. I can't do it, and it's a skill that I don't have, and I find it really funny because people sometimes treat me like, well, oh, of course Matt can do it because I've got a lot of novels out, and I quickly remind them that, yeah, I've got a lot of novels out. Look at my flash fiction history, and it's not ideal.
No. Well, the nice thing about flash fiction is, as a writer, I find what you're trying to do is it's a bit like catching a firefly in a jar. You're trying to trap an emotion or a moment, and just limit it by that mason jar with the firefly, and just let it out a little bit. Just enough that the reader can see that there's something there and that you're grabbing them. I actually quite enjoy them. They were relatively new to me until my first piece would have been last March for the first contest.
The one you won?
I was going to say that, but thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
But Sea Monkeys, they're quite fun. They are a skill, just like any other skill when it comes to writing. They take practice. You would think with fewer words, it would be easier. There has yet to be a piece that I've written that hasn't been double whatever the limit is on the first go.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like parallel parking. It's really hard, but at the end, well, once you've done it for a long time, you can do it in just very few moves. Like a piece of flash fiction, it's so difficult, but eventually you can do it in very few words.
Right, and you learn too what your filler words are, words that are redundant.
Yep.
It's a good skill, and for a writer, even if you don't want to pursue flash fiction, or if you just want to be a novel, it is still a good way to stretch yourself, give yourself a new exercise, and I think that will make you a stronger writer as well.
Yeah, I agree. I've been tempted to put in for them a couple times. I can't really, because I always have to judge them. But yeah, they're lovely. I love her pictures. So yeah, you because your story was the first one to win, it was featured in the Kit Sora, the autobiography book. You got your copies of that in the mail, right?
Yes, I ordered 6 copies. It is a truly beautiful book.
Yes, he's amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. You have no siblings in my family. That's what they got for Christmas. So I've heard nothing but good reviews. So
that's good.
But yeah, it was a good way to humble brag as well to the family.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But have you? So you've had a chance to peek through the collection. I don't know if we've ever discussed this before, but None of that's photoshopped.
I know, they're all practical effects.
Yeah,
and
including the fire.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure there might have been a couple tense moments on some of her photo shoots, but...
Well, she uses kerosene.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I said. What are you thinking?
Oh, man.
There are so many safer accelerants.
Oh, man, yes. Oh, and that's... Yeah, oh, my. Oh, well. Probably can't see the flames from my house, so I guess it's all right.
Yeah, it was very funny. We were at a show of hers there just 2 days ago, I think, and she was explaining in front of the crowd, explaining a bunch of photos, and I was just there holding it up, and I was like, and how did you make this photo? And she was like, kerosene, or how did you get this one where it looks like you're in the snow, freezing to death? Oh, I got in the snow and froze to death. I'm like, yeah. Oh.
No, they're beautiful pictures, and I do encourage your listeners to go to her webpage and follow her there, because she'll also post the making of certain photos, and you get to follow along and see the process and what she goes through to make her props in the photo shoot, and most of them are out in the wilderness. And it's quite something to watch the process that she goes to create such beautiful photos.
It is. It's very interesting. She does a very good job with it, and she's very humble. Way too humble.
Well, one of these days I hope to meet her and Drew.
I'm sure you will at some point, my good friend. Peter, what was your favorite childhood book?
Well, that's another good one. I hate doing these favorites, but those who know me know I had a bit of a learning disability as a young person, and I was quite delayed in school. I think my grade 3 teacher that realized that I could barely even spell my own name. So I was quite behind the curve. So I got a place in what at the time they called general. And so I spent a lot of time in the library in elementary school being given work to work on my own. Just seemed because I worked better. And while I was working in the library, because it was a small rural elementary school, there was this series of books that were eye level, and I believe they were in the history section. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the series was called, but they were old gold-backed books about mythology of Greece and Rome and Egypt and the like. And they were written for people, written for children, but they would have been in the 1950s and 60s. But reading those legends and myths from like Jason and the Argonauts and Tales of Egypt and such has stuck with me throughout my life. And I'd give anything if I could go back to 10-year-old Peter to grab those books. And actually, I remember of them, there were about 6 or 8 in a series. And what they were, I can't remember for the life of me. And I spent way too much time on Google trying to figure out what series they were. But they have really stuck with me through my whole life.
What is your favorite underappreciated novel?
Sherry D. Ramsey's Near Space series. The first book in this series, if memory serves, is entitled Aspect to One's Sun, or words to that effect.
Okay. But Sherry D. Ramsey, okay.
Yeah. I would call it space opera. I bought it to support her. As you know, I have what I lovingly call my inspiration shelf that is overflowing now, where I try and support local writers and buy their books. So I figured I should actually try and read some of them.
I was about to say, have you ever read my books?
Well, jeepers. The connection's breaking up, Matthew. I don't know if I can continue.
Anyway, Sherry Ramsey's.
Yeah, Sherry D. Ramsey's Near Space novels. They're a great read if you love space opera. They're filled with family, adventure. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I read it to support her, and then I realized, oh crap, I need the second one. Where's the third one now? So I do believe she's in the middle of writing her 4th one in that series. It's an open-ended series, and it's really good for those lovers of space opera.
Have you ever gotten reader's block? By which I mean a book that blocked you, or a time of your life where you just could not get into reading a book or books in general.
Oh, absolutely. That's, as you know, one of the things I do in my so-called spare times, I also run a used bookstore out of my house. And that's how that kind of started. Was I'd get 100 pages into a book and realize, why am I struggling so hard? So I just put the book in a box, and then all of a sudden you have dozens and dozens of such books, and then what are you going to do? I'm a firm believer that you hang on to books, or you make sure they find a proper home. They're not something you toss. They're something to be cherished. So
you must love that I did a book burning.
Yeah, I know. That and the fact that what you do with your dog ears just gives me nightmares.
Come on, you gotta rip the page if it's really important.
No, you're never coming into my bookstore, buddy. I'm telling you that right now.
No, then you can, and especially if you rip the whole top of the page off, then you've got the title of the book, because that's on the top of most pages, and the page number, so you can just kind of stick that in your wallet, so you can always go, oh, I know, I want to read what's on the Gold and Steel, page 200.
No, we're not doing that. No. But being a little more serious, yes, there's been lots of books that if I can't make a connection with it, I'll put aside. And as a reader, I know it's just like with movies. I'm in the mood for an action movie, or I'm in the mood for something that will make me cry. Books are the same. So you need to, I generally choose the book based off my mood. Saying that, I gave up on reading fantasy in the late 90s for quite a long period. I was finding it was just so repetitive, what was being put out at the time. And it really turned me off fantasy. There were so many of the hero's journeys. Let's go find the magical sword, gem, ring, whatever, to save the kingdom from the stereotypical evil baddie. And what I was reading wasn't fulfilling what I wanted. So then I did a 180 and left fantasy almost completely and started reading sci-fi, which up until that point I hadn't been reading a whole lot of, though I love science fiction in itself. So, but then there's some really good authors came out in fantasy, Carol Berg, and she jumps to mind, and Elizabeth Moon, and a couple others that, well, even Anne McCaffrey's, I guess, more of her early stuff. But, and then, so now I read about 50-50 of sci-fi and fantasy.
Nice.
I don't really know if that answered your question, but
no, quite a lot.
That's
that was
the
a great
answer you got.
That was a great answer. What's the first book you remember that made you cry, if any?
Cry? Well, you said cry, so I'm going to take you up on that. Cry with Laughter would actually have been my first book that I read that made me cry in that respect, which would have been The Thin Man, written by Dashiell Hammett. It is a 1920-ish, early 30s book. It's a husband and wife kind of private detective, and the shenanigans that couple got up to would just bring tears to my eyes as reading it. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite books, and it is completely outside of what I normally read and write, but their relationship and how they interconnected as a married couple in the early 30s still puts me in stitches.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I think you're the only one to take the meaning of that and go with Laughter. That is ingenious. I don't think anyone else has thought of doing that. What authors did you dislike at first and then grow into?
Would be Terry Brooks. I was given his first novel, The Sword of Shannara, when I would have been early teenager, and this would have been right after I had read The Lord of the Rings. Okay. And his first novel, which it's almost the trilogy of The Lord of the Rings condensed into one book. And I said to myself, I just read this book, basically. So I put Terry Brooks aside for years. And everybody said, well, no, give the next book a try, and here's another one in his series. And no. But then I did. And I picked up Elfstones, which would have been the second book he wrote in that series. And I fell in love with it. And there's another one of my books that I pick up every year and a half and reread, even though I know exactly what's going to happen. But that book, that reconnection with somebody really resonates with me, and I really gave Terry Brooks a second chance, and I'm glad I did, because he's become one of my favorite authors. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting the man twice, and he's very humble and really enjoys meeting his fans.
Wow, cool. Did you tell him that you started hating him?
Yeah, I did, and he says, you're not the first person who's told me that.
All right, well, thanks for coming on again. For all of you, we'll be here again next week at 4:30 Newfoundland time or online at chmr.ca. Please tune in and we'll talk more about writing culture in Newfoundland.